Welcome to the Sales and Marketing for Decorators podcast with me, John Mears, and today I am joined by Simon Goddard of Alliance Workforce. How are you, my friend?
Yeah, very well. How are you?
Yeah, doing well. Starting to get a bit warmer outside, so I'm pleased, and still getting used to working from home. But you're back in the office, I understand.
I am. Yes, we're back in the office. We've got all the as you need, the old COVID protocols in place, etc. But it's nice to see a few faces, to be fair. All split around the office, obviously, but it's nice to see a few faces and have some conversations. Makes a change.
I cannot wait to get back to the office and see people again. I am the last person to come back to the office. I don't know what that says. Maybe I must be the least important.
Maybe you don't want to know.
But yeah, so hopefully soon. But it looks like we're nearly there. So before we get started, for those who don't know, can you just give us a quick headline on who Alliance Workforce are and what you guys do for the painting and decorating industry?
Yeah, sure. So Alliance, in a nutshell, a helicopter view, are a labour hire company that supply decorators to decorating contractors, shop fitting companies, refurbishment contractors on an as required temporary basis. So if perhaps a contractor was looking at having a push on a job, or all their decorators were tied up on other roles and needed some decorators for a short space of time or long space of time, really, we supply those decorators anywhere in the UK, usually close to the contract that they're working on. So they can use decorators for as long or as short as they feel that they need them. And that's what we do as a business. That's all we do.
And I think that's what, because I came across you guys a couple of years ago at the painting and decorating show, and it seemed like just such an awesome service, because it's specifically for painters and decorators, isn't it? And it's staff when you want them, and you can give them back when you don't, essentially.
Do you know, that's a really good way of putting it. It's exactly that. You know, you have the decorators when you need them, offload them, for want of a better phrase, offload them when you don't need them, but you're also offloading the cost of not having decorators when you've no work for them. So yeah, when you need them, give us a call, and when you don't need them, we'll take them back off your site. That's how it works. Yeah.
That's perfect. And so thank you for coming on. I've been very keen to speak to you because you're going to have a different view, a different perspective on the industry and staffing and hiring people. And it's something I talk to decorators on a regular basis. Something a lot of decorators seem to struggle with is taking that step from sole trader to somebody who's got a couple of staff on board. It can be quite stressful. People worry about it a lot because it's sort of, they've got the option of subbies, but when you're taking on staff on longer term projects, they worry that, okay, now I've got another person to worry about, another person that I've got to feed with work and everything like that. And I think you can help in a number of ways. So just to start off, let's talk about, why do you think some decorators find it hard to get good staff? I hear a lot of decorators that they seem to go through a lot of apprentices or subbies and stuff like that. And do you think there's reasons for that, or is it they perhaps hold them to too high expectations?
I think there's a number of reasons, but one thing that sometimes a lot of people overlook is that if you're a decorator, if you're a contractor, you've got work to complete. You've got a project to do, you've got work to complete, and actually having enough focus to go and find good quality decorators is difficult, because you've got handover deadlines, you've got things to complete. And for you actually these days, and not just these days, going back over several years, to actually find good decorators and then bring them into your business. It's not an easy thing to do. They are out there, and there's methods of going and finding those people, but you need a focus on that. Now, once you've got those people on board and they're working in tandem with you, and obviously they understand your culture and how you want them to deal with your clients, and you can get them to stick with you, brilliant. It's job done. But to go out and find those people and the good tradesmen, it's a focus that's needed. And I think that's the biggest thing that people tend to forget, that they have to focus on spending a lot of time to get them there in the first place. I think that's one of the big things.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, actually. I think decorators are, as we know, any sole trader, they're very time poor because they're one-man corporations, aren't they? They're running everything. They're doing the accounts, the sales, the marketing. They're doing the actual work itself, and recruitment of people is, well, it's a full-time job, isn't it? To do it right and to do it to a high standard, you need to focus on it. And yeah, I think that's a very good point, that when a decorator is looking to bring somebody on, they're probably not running 10, 15, 20 interviews. It's more of a sort of, right, who's the first or second person to apply for it? Let's see if we can shape and mold them into what we want. And then it often doesn't work out.
Well, coupled with the fact, and we shouldn't hide behind this, although it's completely wrong, is that the decorating industry and decorating as a whole is seen by some people, isn't it, to be the easy trade to be in. So it attracts possibly more people than it would going into joinery or electricians or whatever else. And unfortunately, you do have to focus more, go through more people, an awful phrase to use, but go through more people, speak to more people to find the good eggs, if you like, to find the good quality people, because it attracts more people in the first place due to the everybody thinks they can paint, which obviously is ridiculous, but that's the perception out there, isn't it?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. It is. What's the phrase? If you can piss, you can paint. Everybody thinks that.
I wasn't going to use that. I was waiting for you to say that. Yeah.
Oh, I appreciate that. So you've got so many people that maybe if they're out of work or whatever it might be, they just, like you say, they assume they can just pick up a brush, do a bit of decorating. Anyone can do that. And so, if you put an advert out, you will attract people who might not have any skills or the right set of values to be a decorator. Being a decorator, I think you've got to have the right set of values. You've got to have an eye for detail. You've got to have pride in your work. And a lot of the wrong people, I think, will be applying for jobs as a decorators because they think all it is just put some old clothes on, slap a bit of paint on the wall, and fine, take your money, see you later. And it's not like that at all. So
no,
perhaps, I mean, that's a industry as a whole is something we need to work on, and that's a long-term project. But it's a good point. You'll have to go through a lot more people to find that diamond in the rough, as it were.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And one of the major things that we look for, and I'm sure all decorators look for, and certainly should be looking for, is attitude. The first thing, before you even look at their experience or their qualifications or their training, or it's attitude. Whether you're speaking to them these days a lot of the time over the phone or Zoom or whatever, or you're meeting them in person, it's the first and foremost, and that's certainly the first thing we look for in here, is attitude. Can you talk to them? Would you let those people go and meet your clients? Would you put them into somebody's house? Can they talk to that? Can they talk to that householder or that person or that construction site manager or whatever sector you're in? Massive, big part of it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I tell you what, you're bloody good at this, mate. Because that was literally my next topic was what tips can you give people to help them find good staff? What can you look for? Obviously, it's difficult in an interview situation, but attitude and yeah, the way they sort of put themselves across is important. And yeah, I think that's really good. You've got to look at them and go, yeah, would I be happy leaving this person in the house with my client, Mrs. Jones, and would I be happy that they're going to do a good job, they're going to be kind, courteous, and they're going to represent my company in the way that I want it to be?
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, so are there any other sort of top tips that you've found in your experience of sort of little key indicators where if you see it in someone, you go, yeah, they're going to be good? Or is it just attitude in general?
No, there's attitude. Obviously, you have to go into their qualifications, and whether that's City and Guilds or MVQ a lot these days, I understand it, but you've got to go into the qualifications. I think if we're talking to somebody and they've taken time out to do additional training, so whether that's asbestos awareness, whether it's PASMA, whether it's additional training other than just their trade qualification.
Yeah.
And I know all this sort of links back to attitude, but it just shows a willingness to learn, a willingness to move on, a willingness to engage with other things. And that generally, not all the time, but that generally it's a good tip to look for, because they're open to learning and they want to learn, and it tends to rub off on the pride in their work. I suppose that's the phrase I'm looking for.
Yeah, I think it's that's a good indicator, isn't it, that they're not the sort of person that's there to do the bare minimum. They haven't just done their bare minimum qualifications and then gone to get a job. They've looked at different things and they've got off on their own back and they've decided, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to try and improve myself and set myself apart from other painters and decorators. And yeah, someone with that sort of attitude toward things is going to be a much better candidate, I would say.
I know it seems like we're talking about sort of attitude at the top line rather than experience, but experience is obviously really important and qualifications are really important, but there's no point, in my opinion, there's no point in being a fantastic decorator and then you go and knock off all the clients that you're going to work with. There is no point. The two have got to go in tandem.
Was there? Yeah. So, would you say that you would take a good attitude over good qualifications? Do you think they have to have both, or would you, if you were sort of in a position where you found someone with a great attitude, would you go, yeah, I can teach and shape and mold this person. I can teach them the practical skills. They've got the right attitude, so I want to take them on and do it like that.
If you've got I think if you've got the time and the inclination and the willingness to bring people on like that, I would, whether it's in-house for consultants that work in here or decorators that we send to site, we hire on attitude. Obviously, we're not all in that position, are we? So some of the decorators are not going to have time to spend doing that, because as we mentioned earlier, they've got projects to complete. So then they would probably look more at the experience side of things, because they haven't got time to sit and train. But if you can get a mixture of the both, that's the ideal world, I think, to be in, really.
Good. What about apprentices? Because obviously this is a little bit different to what you do, but apprentices are often a good option for people, and people like taking on apprentices. Number one, because they're great value. You get a lot for your money with an apprentice, but obviously they're not going to come with all the qualifications and all the experience and stuff like that. So again, I would guess that you've got to make a judgment call yourself, haven't you? You've got to go, have I got the time to invest here? Yeah. Can I see that they've got the right attitude? And then am I prepared to take that time to mold them into something great? Or am I actually just looking for a project where I can just hire someone experienced, get the job done, and that's it? Any tips on what you would do for looking for an apprentice, and whether you think it's a good option for some people?
I think it could well be, to be honest. For some people, it isn't. It's away from what we do here, certainly. But I think it could be a good option for some people. And as you've already mentioned, the positives there are molding them to the way that you want them to work. Again, going back to attitude, you probably pick up some great people with some great attitude that want to learn. That's why they're going into apprenticeships in the first place. If you've got the time to spend with them and mold them and give them that experience, then great. But also mold them in the way that you want them to talk to your clients, as well as the way that you want them to paint, etc., and decorate. The drawbacks to that, time, I suppose, is one of the big things. And the type of person that you are, as a decorator or contractor that wants to take those apprentices on. Are you the type of person, if you're an owner operator, if you like, and you want to expand your business, are you that type of person that has the patience and the motivation, or you want to motivate that apprentice? It's important. But so I guess the drawbacks are time and patience, and if you've got the inclination to do it. But certainly the positives, your cost, it's a lower cost, isn't it? And I think the bigger thing is getting them to work the way that you want them to work, because you feel that that's how you want them to work, and that's the right thing to do.
I think, that's a big advantage from the way I see it, because often if you say you take on a large project as a decorator and you're like, right, I need some help on this one, and you might know a couple of other local decorators, so you'll go, right, let's pull these guys in and let's do it that way. It can be difficult because if you're bringing in other decorators who are themselves business owners, they have their ways of doing things, you have your ways of doing things, and perhaps the more experienced they are, the more reluctant they are to do things your way, and you can quite easily have a clash there. How do you see this a lot? Because obviously, I guess with what you guys are doing, a lot of the people you place, they might be self-employed as well. So do you find there is difficulty for people who are sole traders themselves trying to then fit in with a larger firm or a different company or something like that? Or do you think decorators are quite good at adapting to the situation?
It's a great question. I think, I think that decorators in general, whether you're a sole trader or you have a bigger organization, have a respect for each other when they see that the quality of work is what they would expect of each other. So a lot of the people that we supply are sole traders that have their own work and then have a gap in their workload, and we help them out by supplying them to contractors that need to fill their gap in their work, or their gap on their site. We don't see, of course we have the odd problem, and we see that problem happen, but usually when the respect is there, that usually happens after the first day or first few hours, when they see the quality of work, they adapt. They adapt to work to each other. So no, we don't see a lot of problems, but sometimes it happens. Yeah, of course it does. Yeah.
No, that's good. I think you're bang on there. There's a lot of pride in painters and decorators. I think particularly as it's a finishing trade, isn't it? So it's all about that finished article. And even if you're acting as a subby for someone, you don't want to be associated with a job where the finish is not to a standard that you're happy with, because you don't want your name being put to it. So yeah, as long as you and your subbies are in line on what the right standard of work is, then it sounds like it's something that decorators can fit together quite nicely on.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so.
So, talking of subbies, how do you have like an overview of what are subbies expecting to get paid? Does it vary across the country? Does it vary on sort of site work, residential work? What are the numbers in the industry at the moment?
Well, bear in mind, we supply here on an hourly rate. So I know that a lot of the decorators out there will take contracts and jobs on price, quite rightly. When we're supplying our guys, they tend to be working in general between the 15 and 16 pounds an hour mark. Actual pay them at that sort of rate.
Yeah.
It varies a little bit around the UK. London, we tend to pay slightly more in London, sometimes the home counties. And then actually, bizarrely, or I found it a little bit bizarre at first, when you go further north, so our office in Glasgow, they cover all of Scotland, but it tends to be the central belt of Scotland that we get most of our work. And that tends to be a slightly higher rate as well. They tend to be working on London rates. So
okay,
it's quite interesting. But
so 15, 16 pound an hour, I've just put it in. We're looking at sort of 120 pound a day, up to maybe 140, something like that.
Something in around that sort of mark, yeah, absolutely. That varies that can vary in the summer, and it's very market driven. So if we need to pay more in the busier times, then that's what we need to do. It's market driven, but then it's down to the hiring contractor or the decorator to decide whether they want to pay the additional pay rate, I suppose, to get the decorators in busier time, or they don't, and they want us to keep looking at the average rate that we would pay generally.
No, I think that's reasonable. I know some people that subby at lower than that. I know some people that get more than that. I think, you've got to make it as a business decision, haven't you? And I think that's the great thing about what you guys do is that flat hourly rate, isn't it? And there's your price, you know what it is, and you can then decide, okay, can I build this into the contract? Is it worth it, or do I look at other options?
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's talk about the benefits and the drawbacks of scaling your business as a painter and decorator. I talked about obviously it can make you quite nervous to take on staff, whether you're hiring subcontractors, and when you start taking on bigger projects and perhaps booking yourself further in advance. What do you see as the benefits of scaling your business as a painter and decorator, and perhaps what are the drawbacks of doing it? Because I know a lot of people are anxious. Some people have tried it, got too stressed with it, and then went, I just want to go back and be a sole trader, do my own thing, and just have the easy life to a certain extent. But for me, I think there's massive benefits to scaling your business. What do you think?
I think you're right. I think I think a lot of it, depends on your end goal as a person or a business, and what your end motivation for that is. So scaling your business could give you the time and freedom that you've always wanted, because you'd effectively, once you get into the scaling side, you would have other people running your business on a day-to-day basis, and you're overseeing that business. Therefore, if your motivation for scaling a business is having time and freedom to go watch your kids play football or whatever you want to do, then I think that's a real positive for scaling your business. And
I think a lot of people go into the self-employment route for that exact reason. They want more time, more flexibility, but often you start the business, and then before you know it, you're working twice as hard as you were, and you're perhaps bitten off a bit more than you can chew. But I mean, obviously, you'll have seen it as a business owner yourself, the benefits of taking on staff. And I always try and talk to people about, if you have that desire to scale your business, you need to look at it as your business as sort of a money-making machine, and there are parts to that machine. And when you're a sole trader, you are looking after all of those parts. And as you hire staff, you want to give the staff the autonomy to look after each section, each system within your business. To ultimately, every time you do that, you're freeing up yourself a little bit of time. So if you give the accounting side to somebody, that's time that then comes back to you. And ultimately, you want to get to a point where the business will work without you.
Absolutely.
that's the perfect position to get to, isn't it? Because then, yeah, all you do is you can get to the point where it's just that monthly meeting where you oversee it and have a chat with everyone, make sure things are going correctly. And also your business is worth a hell of a lot more if it doesn't need you to be in it.
Yeah, because you've got a management structure in place that if you went to I don't know, you went to Spain or you went on holiday for 2 months, if you were in the privileged position to do it, then your business would effectively run without you. And if a buyer comes in then for your business at some point when you want to get to your exit point, if a buyer comes in for that and they can say, okay, Fred, well, you're going to be out of the business, how does that leave the business? Well, it doesn't change the day-to-day running of it, because I've got X doing marketing, I've got X doing sales, I've got X doing operations, and I've got X doing finance. Then it doesn't, the value goes up. Actually, I was going to say the value stays the same. It doesn't. The value of your business goes up because it doesn't affect it by you selling that business. So again, back to your ultimate goal, isn't it? Is it money? Well, scaling your business could give you higher profits eventually. There's going to be a few bumps along the road, obviously, when you first start to scale it, but it could give you higher profits, which gives you more money in the day-to-day or week-by-week basis, but also when you sell your business. But a lot of people, that I speak to in business, time is a great asset. Time is a great asset, and once you've got that time, you tend to find, and you've got your structure in place, you tend to find that the money follows the time. You're not tied to that business. So I think I'm the same as you. I think there's great benefits to scaling a business. I genuinely do.
I don't think it's without its challenges, and I think I think one of the first real steps to scaling your business is obviously taking on staff and then removing yourself bit by bit from each system and each operation within the business. And when you first start doing that, number one, your pricing strategy is probably first built for one person, and then when you take another staff member on, all of a sudden you've got to change your pricing structure and how you do certain things. So those first few months, years, or whatever it might be, you might find it's much more challenging, because as the business owner, you're the last person getting paid, and you're paying everybody else, and then you're getting to the end of the month and you're thinking, bloody hell, why am I doing this? I was earning more when I was on my own.
I'm going to go back to just me.
Yeah, and I think that catches a lot of people out, but it's one of those, I think you've got to keep with it, keep focused on that end goal, as you say, if that's what you want. And the rewards will be there in the end. I personally think for decorators, it's something that everybody should consider, not least because decorating is a physical job, and how long do you want to put your body through it every single day? Do you want to be rolling ceilings when you're 65, 70 years old, or do you want to start trying to put processes in when you're 40, so that by the time you get to 60, you're not on the tools anymore?
Yeah, and the other thing, when we've already spoke about staff, and they're difficult to find, but when you've got them, you can bounce off them. And when I say bounce off them, I mean talk to them. I mean share ideas in terms of the business, get fresh eyes on something that if you were sat there looking at that yourself, you might get a bit flustered with it, or a bit, Christ, where do I go with this? Well, you can talk to other people within the business as well, and I found it makes a massive difference.
I think there's all sorts of benefits on that side of thing, because some days you're going to turn up to work and you are not in the mood and you do not want to do it. But if you've got other staff there, well, chances are one of the staff members is going to be in a good mood, and that will rub off on you, and you'll be able to, they might pick up the slack for you on one day, and when they're in a bad mood, you'll pick up their slack. And I have a lot of conversations with decorators, obviously sort of in and around sales and marketing, and it blows me away how many great ideas decorators have once they start talking to you about it. But the problem they have is they work on their own. They don't have anyone to talk to and anyone to bounce ideas off. So they ring me up for advice on sales and marketing, I'll let them talk for 45 minutes. They'll come up with loads of great ideas themselves, then thank me and put the phone down. And I'm like, well, this is easy because basically you had it all in yourself, and you just needed someone to bounce off of. And yeah, even having one staff member could help you do that. So that side of things, you could really help you grow your business and get more out of it.
And I would imagine that the sales and marketing side is something where people need that help, and people need that bouncing off other people, because it's to some degree it's an art form, isn't it? And a lot of it is just conversation, but to some degree it's an art form, and it's wow, let me talk to somebody that knows what they're doing. Absolutely, I think that's really important.
Yeah, that creativity comes from going, oh, what about we do this? And then we go, yeah, but what about if we add that on? And oh, yes, okay, that's a great idea. And then these things work. And when you do it all on your own, it's very easy to start second guessing yourself. You just think, well, I like this, but will anybody else like this? I think it's a good idea, but is it a good idea? And then you end up not doing anything. Sorry, I'm getting off the topic again. You know what I'm like. I'm always talking about sales and marketing in some way. Let's talk a little bit about what you guys do then, because I think you guys offer a service which is a great stepping stone. Well, not just a stepping stone; it's a great all-round solution for decorators that want to look at taking on staff. So, how does it work? Say I'm John Mears Decorators, and I've got a big project coming up, and I think I'm going to need 2 or 3 guys to help me do this on time and deliver it. I come to you. What's the process? How do you guys help me out?
Okay, so you'd come to us. You say, okay, guys at Alliance, I've got a contract in wherever. I need 3 decorators. This is the type of contract that I'm working on. This is the type of finish that I need, etc. These are the hours that I think the guys are going to be working. It's for 3 weeks, it's for 4 weeks, it's for 10 weeks, doesn't matter. And then basically there's 2 sides to our business. So you're the client, and then obviously we have the decorators that register and that work for us on a regular basis. So we would then go to our pool of decorators that were either working for us at the time, about to finish a contract, offer them your work, if you like. So if it was 3 weeks in Birmingham, we would go to our pool of decorators. Right, guys, we've got this work in Birmingham. It's 3 weeks work. This is the type of work that it's doing. We would obviously narrow that down. So if it was new build resi, or if it was refurbishment, or whatever it was, we would obviously narrow down our pool of decorators so that we knew that those decorators could carry out that type of work. We would then come back to you and say, right, John, we've got you Fred, Smith and Harry. This is where they've worked for us before. This is why we want to send them to you. Who are they reporting to on site? What time do you want them there? Blah, 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 blah. We then go and send those decorators to site for you, report usually to either you or to your site foreman or whoever that may be. You utilize those guys for as long as you need them. And at the end of each week, or days, if it's just a matter of days, you sign a timesheet for the amount of hours that those guys have worked on site, and we basically invoice you accordingly from the amount of hours that they've worked. We would send you an invoice for the agreed hourly rate that we'd already agreed before sending them to site, and then we'd pay the decorators on a weekly basis. And in normal terms, we could then offer you credit terms. It's normally 30 days end of month, so that helps with contractors' cash flow, etc. And that's how it works. And then at the end of the contract, whether you finish all 3 of them at the same time, or you want to drip them off the job because you've got some snagging work or whatever to do, then you just offload them back to us, and then we find them something else with other contractors. And that's how it works. There's effectively 2 sides to our business. There's the client side and the decorating side. And actually it works really well, because when the decorators that work for us, most of them are small sole operated decorating businesses, effectively, that have gaps within their workload. And we send them or help them get work with contractors that have a need for whatever reason, whether they're working out of town or the lads are busy at the moment. There's numerous reasons why contractors use us. But decorating's all we do, and that's what we do. So we sort of marry up a problem where contractors need them and decorators have a gap in their workload, and that's we're the sort of the middleman. And in most cases, nobody knows that it's us in the middle, quite frankly, in terms of the end client. The decorators, they just go to site as John Mears decorators, effectively. So it's really well.
Yeah, so, and is this a sort of, you talk about, obviously we specify if it's like residential work, commercial work and stuff like that. So can I come to you and go, right, I'm prepared to spend a little bit more, but I need someone that can spray and someone that can come in and do high-end residential work, or and then can I come to you and go, I've just got some new build stuff that I need to just smash out fast. Have you got some guys that I could just get cheaper hourly rate? They're just going to be putting 2 coats on ceilings all day long or something like that. Is that negotiable, or is it sort of a flat rate? We're going to just pay you a standard flat rate hourly?
No, it all depends on the type of job that you want doing, basically. So the actual for us and our consultants that work in here, getting that job spec from you is really important. Really. Yeah. And then if need be, if it was a high-end resi job and it was, wide vinyl or whatever, then we can put you in touch with the decorators before we even send them to site. If you want, we can agree the rate, and we're quite transparent with the rate. The rate is based on what we need to pay the decorators to get them there, and then obviously we have our margin on top of that. But our margin remains the same. So we could put you in touch with Fred because you wanted to make sure. Not just from hearing it from us, but you wanted to hear from Fred that his experience within wide vinyl and high resi contracts is what you want to hear from your end. So that's absolutely fine. Yeah.
And what is your process for that pool of decorators? You're putting them through your own checks, aren't you? You're essentially, you're saving me from having to interview 10, 15, 20 decorators. So your pool of decorators, are they all qualified to certain standards? They all have to meet a certain experience? What's the sort of prerequisite to be on your books, essentially?
Yeah, so they're all, most of them, to be fair, have worked for us previously over the years. So we've been going since 2002, so whatever that is, nearly 20 years. So we tend to rotate a pool of decorators from contract to contract. We are constantly taking on new decorators, obviously. So references from the last job that they worked. Photographs is a great thing. You just have to be careful with the photographs just to make sure that it is their photographs. Qualifications, CSCS card where they need CSCS card, then that's something that we take copies of. Two work references. We would do you know what we tell contractors, and we probably do a bit more than what they would do, to be perfectly honest, because this is our business and this is all we do is supply labor. But we would do what you would do effectively if you were going to take on Fred to do some work directly for John Mears Decorators, let's say. You'd check him out, him or her out, you'd check them out, you'd check references, you'd ideally want to see some photographs. Everything that you would do is what we do in the background, but that's all we do. That's what our focus is. So day in, day out, we're just talking to decorators and decorating contractors. So yeah, having the right qualifications, right references, right attitude, as we've spoken about before. We would probably go through. Sorry, John. We'd probably go through for every 10 people that ring in. We would probably use 2.
Okay, so it's quite strict then.
Yeah.
Okay. And so talking about hourly rates, so you mentioned earlier it's about £16 an hour, and then it's plus your bit on top. So what can we be expecting to pay if I wanted a guy to come and work for me next week or so? It's going to be looking at sort of £20 an hour or something like that.
£2 an hour is our margin. Between 2 and 2.25 is our margin on top of the pay rate. So,
Oh wow,
and
that's very competitive.
and you know what? We would come to you and say, listen, so you give us the brief, and it was in Birmingham for 3 weeks, and tell us the type of contract or role that it was, and then we come back to you and say, yeah, we've got Fred, and we're going to have to pay him £16 an hour, which means us charging you 18. And we tell you what we're paying him. We have no problem with that. The whole business here is built on transparency. So yeah.
No, that's really good. And when you put it as essentially we're paying you £2 an hour, considering all the work you're doing, all the work you're taking away from the decorator, you're just going, right, you don't have to do interviews, you don't have to do references, you don't have to do background checks and qualifications, you don't have to do any of that. You just give us £2 an hour and we take care of it for you. Sorry, go on, you're going to say something.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, and the other thing, and I don't want to sit here and sell Alliance to you, but the other thing there is just for people's peace of mind, or your decorators' peace of mind. We're dealing with people, and things go wrong. Most of the time it's hunky dory, but we're dealing with people. Things go wrong, so we do have an 8-hour guarantee. So where we would send you a decorator, and for whatever, he's fallen out with his wife the night before, or he doesn't like your site foreman, or he doesn't like you, or you don't like his work, or whatever that may be, providing that you tell us within the first day that he's on site, or he or she is on site, then we won't charge that client for their time, because we've got it wrong. So it's a little bit of peace of mind, but it's actually something that does get brought up time and time again from the contractors. Just a bit of confidence that if we get it wrong, don't pay us for that day.
I tell you what, I said you were a pro earlier. That was literally my next question. I was going to say, playing devil's advocate, what happens if they turn up and they're rubbish? So you've got an 8-hour guarantee where, if they turn up and they're an absolute nightmare and you just don't want them on your site anymore, you're not paying.
Don't pay. Superb. Do me a favour though, don't have them for 3 weeks and then don't pay.
Oh dear. Yeah. Okay. So we've got the process sounds very straightforward from a. I think that's a great way to get used to taking on staff, using them, seeing how that people fit in with your business, managing people, because obviously that's a skill that you don't get taught that as a decorator at college. You don't get taught how to manage people and delegate tasks and things like that. And having a system like this where, especially with that 8-hour guarantee, I think that's something great. And the other side of it is, of course, especially with COVID and the way things are, it is really not uncommon for a customer to call you up 2 weeks before you're supposed to start and say, I can't have you come round and do this anymore, or even a couple of days before you start and go, I've literally just been diagnosed with COVID. I can't have anyone in the house for the next 10 days. Again, so those decorators then call you up and go, Simon, I've got a problem here. I've got a 2-week gap in my calendar, completely unforeseen. Can you place me anywhere at 15 quid an hour?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And that's exactly how it works. Or they actually see us as an extension of their, would I say sales arm, but an extension of where they get their work from. So they go out and price their own private work and do their own stuff. And then they also see us as, they know that they're going to get a call or a text message from us once we know them. And that's an extension of where they get their work from. So it works really well from both sides. It works great for the client because they have the decorators on site when they need them, and it works great for the decorators that we supply because we're sort of an arm of where they get their business from, and it keeps them in work. So works quite well. Gets a bit tricky in the winter, don't get me wrong.
Well, what's your sort of success rates in terms of, if I called you up and said, I live in a town called Brackley, so if I called you up and said, right, I've got Mrs. Jones's living room to paint next week, I'm flat out on another job, or I'm ill or something like that, can you place someone to do that job. So how much notice typically do I need to be giving you? And is it sort of 90% of the time you'll find someone that fits, 50% or 100%? How sort of reliable is it for you guys to find someone that can do what I want?
I'd say the leading time that you mentioned. If we get more than a day, we're like happy bunnies, because it's normally Friday lunchtime. Can you get somebody for Monday? But that's what we do. So we're used to that. If we get 2 days, we're all having a party in the office. It's brilliant. 2 days. And depending on location, 9.5 times out of 10, I'd say that we would find a decorator in that location. If we're talking about, I'm thinking about actual areas that sometimes we may struggle. So parts of East Anglia, not necessarily Norwich and that sort of thing, because they're major cities. But once you sort of, go in, I should say Norfolk probably, but in and around the sort of East Anglia area, it might take us another day or two to find those people, or they may be finishing on another job for us. Sometimes mid Wales becomes a bit of an issue because there's nothing there, and finding people to sort of go there. But 9 times out of 10, and this may sound really silly, and it does to most people, but we've actually got 20,000, well, actually 21,000 and odd registered decorators that have registered that we have access to, that are on our database. Now, of course, we haven't used all those guys and ladies, but and you can imagine they cover all over the place, literally all over the UK. So I would say, in a long-winded answer to your question, sorry, lead-in time doesn't. A day, happy days, and I'd probably say 95%, certainly 90 to 95%, we would find that decorator. That percentage may drop during the summer months, or it may just take us a little bit longer to find them. But no, we tend to get them.
I think that's firstly, that's a phenomenal amount of decorators, 21,500. When you said, "Oh, we've got a pool of decorators," I was like, "Oh yeah, maybe a couple of thousand or so." 21,500. That's I mean, that's pretty much every decorator in the country, isn't it?
I looked at that. I looked at that the other day, and I thought, "What?" And it's And don't get me wrong, we tend to pay. What's our numbers? We tend to pay about 120, 130 a week in the pre-COVID, or hopefully post-COVID. 120, 130 decorators a week in the winter, rising to sort of 220, 230 on an ongoing basis, on a weekly basis in the summer. But still, but those change all the time. We do rotate a pool of labour, but we have to keep those decorators, keep registering those decorators. So quite a few, aren't there?
Quite a few is a bit of an understatement. That's I'm looking at this thinking there's almost an opportunity here. In fact, I think there is an opportunity here for decorators could almost start just pricing up jobs and just setting it as, right, okay, I'm just going to do all the sales and marketing, and I'm just going to place decorators from you guys to go and hang the wallpaper or fit the mural or do the painting and stuff like that. Once you get to know the decorators a little bit, maybe this is me going off on a tangent. Maybe I'm just going to set up my own decorating business where I don't actually do any decorating. I just sell the jobs and get you to place staff there.
Sounds like a great business. I'd have some of that. But going back to actually just thinking about it, scaling a business, then and I don't really, you don't sort of think about it on a daily basis, but we've released loads of decorators to decorating contractors that have perhaps used us on a temporary basis, or taken on a decorator to do a particular job for them. They've really got on with them, and then they've rang and said, look Simon, look Martin, that runs Alliance, we really like this guy, and now we're in a position that we are going to scale the business. Can we keep him? And do you know what? It actually gives us a great deal of pleasure to think, "Crap, well, A, we've got them the right person in the first place, and B, if they're scaling up their business, well, A, it's a great thing that people are scaling the business. And then I suppose from a selfish business point of view, well, if you're scaling your business, you may well use us again. So yeah, that just came to mind. So I thought, well, scaling a business, then use us for the temporary stuff and send them back when you don't need them. But then if you do need to take them on,
Yeah.
just speak to us, and we'll, 9 times out of 10, the decorator, if he wants a full-time role, will come and stay with them. So,
Yeah. So yeah, if they're really good,
Mm.
keep them. And yeah, I think that makes complete sense for you, because once someone starts to scale, they start taking on those staff. I think they're probably far more likely to come back to you and go, right, I need 2 more temps from you, and then it'll go on and on from there. No, superb. Yeah. Is there anything else that you want to add about Alliance and what you guys can do? I think as an offering, this is pretty bloody good.
No, I think we've covered it there, John. Really, it's a. Do you know what? It has to be basic because I run it. So it's a pretty basic model. I would just add that it's all we do within Alliance. That's all we do. It's very specialist. And going back to the focus that we spoke about earlier, it's really, talking to decorators and talking to decorating contractors is just what we do on a day-to-day basis, because we don't have contracts to finish. That's all we do day in, day out. So I'm sure we can help people out there. There's lots of other USPs that we have that we can help with, cash flow and all that sort of thing. But the basics of it is we supply decorators to decorating contractors when they need them, and it works for both sides, really.
Yeah, I think that's really important, that specialization, because the more familiar and the longer I spend in this industry, the more I realize painting and decorating, it's almost like a world of its own, isn't it? So you have to full-time specialize in it to really deliver a good service. Something that I just got reminded of is I ran a survey the other day and saw the results came back, and one of the questions on this survey was, how long are homeowners willing to wait for a decorator? And I sent this survey out to a load of homeowners, and everybody said 3 months was the limit. Now, I know some decorators with their existing clients and stuff, they'll wait longer, but typically if someone wakes up one morning and goes, I want a decorator, they won't wait more than 3 months for that person to start. Now, at the moment, that means, and I know that means, that there are a lot of decorators who are turning down work because they are fully booked up 3-6 months in advance. So there's almost I think there's an opportunity there for, do you know what? Instead of turning down that work, go, yeah, I can do it, but it won't be me personally that does the decorating. And then they call you and go, I've got this job in a month or whenever. Can you place someone to come and do it? It's an option for people to sit. Instead of turning down work, they can get you to place someone in there, and if it works, then that is the first step to, okay, I've got someone else now that I can trust to complete work on my behalf, and I'm earning a little bit off the top of it, and that is the first step to scaling your business, really, and it's almost risk-free.
And I suppose if you think about that, take a step back and think about that. If that's Joe Bloggs Decorating, then when you're sending that second person in, and it's not Joe Bloggs that's actually doing the work himself, well, you're starting then to promote that business as Joe Bloggs Decorating, and it's not going to be Joe Bloggs. Oh, and Stephen is our decorator from Joe Bloggs Decorating. So you're selling the business rather than yourself. And I think that's the, as you probably just said, it's the first step of scaling, isn't it? That you're selling the business rather than the decorator, and I think that's a really important thing. Yeah, of course we can do it, and my decorator is going to be Stephen, and that, whether he comes from us or whether he goes and finds them himself, but if we supply that decorator, he's still only going to the client or the site as Joe Bloggs Decorating, not from Alliance. He's going as Joe Bloggs Decorating, and he's your decorator. So it's maybe a stepping stone a stepping stone to that scalability, perhaps.
I think that's something people could really look at. I mean, I think most decorators would probably want to bring them on and work with them on a couple of jobs to see what they like and everything first. But then at some point, you've got to let go of it slightly and let them do the job, and maybe just go in and check it and do the snagging at the end or something like that. And it's a process that you've got to go through. But yeah, that's a big step from, you are then a business that sells painting and decorating services rather than I'm just a painter and decorator. So it's a mindset change, and that could be a big step. Simon, this has been an absolute pleasure. I've learned a lot on this, and I think there's a whole lot for decorators to think about on this conversation. So tell us, how can we get in touch with Alliance? How can we register some interest with you? Where do we find you?
We're on our website is allianceworkforce.co.uk. We're on the social media channels. We have got a few branches here. We've got Glasgow. Our head office is Leeds, so by all means give the consultants a call. They always love to chat. So we've got an office in Leeds, one in Glasgow, one in Bath, and one to be coming in London. So, but you know what, just give us a call. We're talkable people, as you probably see on this podcast. We love to talk to people. We love to talk about decorating. So either give us a buzz or get in touch with us through the website or social media channels.
Superb, thank you. And guys, if you want to hear more from me, as always, go to my website jmears.co.uk/ebook. And I've got an ebook there that you can download free of charge with my 7 marketing secrets guaranteed to grow your painting and decorating business. Free of charge. You just sign up to my email list. Simon, once again, thank you very much for joining me.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And thank you everyone for listening. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.